Have you ever wondered what your body is made up of? From your eyes that you see to your heart that beats continuously. Everything in your body is made up of cells. Just like a building is made up of bricks, all living organisms are made up of cells. Now, what is a cell then? A cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of life. This means that a cell is the smallest unit that can perform all the life processes called respiration, then growth, reproduction and excretion. Some organisms like amoeba, they are made up of only one cell, and that is known as unicellular organism. Other organisms like humans, plants and animals, they are made up of millions of cells, and these are called multicellular organism. Now we will talk about the discovery of cell, or how the cell was discovered. Actually, the cell was discovered by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. He examined a thin slice of cork under a microscope. He observed many small empty box-like structures in the cork. Okay, so these structures reminded him of small rooms in a monastery which were called cells. Therefore, he named these structures cells. The cells observed by Robert Hooke were dead cells because cork is obtained from the dead plant tissue. Fine. Later in 1674, Antony van Leeuwenhoek observed living cells for the first time using more powerful microscope. This was the microscope that Leeuwenhoek was using in his time. Now he saw tiny living organisms in pond water, which is called animalcules. Okay, after that in 1831, Robert Brown discovered nucleus in the cells. Now what is nucleus? Nucleus is the brain of the cell, or we call it as a control center of the cell. Okay, and in 1839, Purkinje coined the term protoplasm. So what is protoplasm? Protoplasm is the living substance that is present within the cell, that including the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Okay, all right. So then in the year 1838 and 1839, two biologists named Schleider and Schwann proposed the cell theory, which states that all plants and animals are composed of cells, and the cell is the basic unit of life. Okay, and the cell theory was further expanded by Rudolf Virchow in the year 1855, and he stated that all the cells arise from pre-existing cell. So within the discovery of electron microscope in 1940, it was possible to observe and understand the complex structure of the cell and its various organelles. Clear? Now, based on the cellular structure, cells are classified into two types. First one is prokaryotic cell. Now, what is prokaryotic cell? Prokaryotic cells doesn't have a well-defined nucleus. Like for example, bacteria and archaebacteria. These doesn't have a well-defined nucleus. Now, next one is eukaryotic cell. So, it is completely opposite of the prokaryotic cell. So, eukaryotic cells have a well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria, lysosomes, Golgi apparatus, all these are the organelles. So eukaryotic cells have organelles and well-defined nucleus like plant and animal cells. Okay, alright. Now cell come in different shapes and sizes depending upon their function. Like for example, nerve cells. Nerve cells, they are long and branched to transmit the messages. Now RBC, that is a disc-shaped structure that carries oxygen. Amoeba has an irregular shape. Although cells differ in shape and size, most cells have three basic components. First one is cell membrane, then cytoplasm and nucleus. Now let us study each in detail. First one is cell membrane, that is also known as the plasma membrane. So cell membrane is the outer covering of the cell. It separates the cell contents from the external environment, and it is selectively permeable. What is selectively permeable? Selectively permeable means it allows only some substances to pass through while preventing others. Okay, like cell membrane is like a boundary wall of the house which separates the inside and outside of the house by many things. So similarly, cell membrane protects the cell and allows only certain substances to enter and leave the cell. The movement of substances across the cell membrane occurs by two methods. First one is diffusion. Now what is a diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of substances from a region of higher concentration to a lower concentration. And the second one is the osmosis, which is the movement of water through a selectively permeable membrane from a higher concentration to a higher water concentration to a lower water concentration. Clear? So let us see some examples of diffusion and osmosis that we use in daily life. Okay, so first one, let us see the example of diffusion. Smell of perfume, right? Like when perfume is sprayed, its molecules spread throughout the room. That is due to diffusion. Now second one is smell of cooking food. The aroma of the food. When your parent cooks food, you will feel the smell of food, right? So the aroma of the food spreads from the kitchen to other rooms by diffusion process. Next is ink dropping in water. Then the tea bag in hot water. The color and flavor spread in water through diffusion process. So remember, diffusion occurs only in gases and liquids, not in solid. Clear? Now let us see the example of osmosis. So first one is raisins swelling in water. Like when raisins are placed in plain water, the water enters through the semi-permeable membrane and they swells. You might have observed it. Next is a shrinking of vegetables in salt water. Vegetables when placed in salt water, they lose water and then they shrinks. Okay. Next is absorption of water by the plant roots. Then preserving pickles in salt. Osmosis occurs only in liquids, and semi-permeable membrane is important for the osmosis process. Now on the basis of solute concentration, the solutions are of three types. First one is isotonic, second is hypotonic, and the third one is hypertonic solution. Now what are these? Isotonic means there is no net movement of water. That is, the water enters and leaves the cell equally. Or we can say that the solution has same concentration of solute and water of the cell. Okay. Next is hypotonic solution. Now a hypotonic solution has more water as compared to the cell, or in other words we can say that the water moves into the cell and the cell swells up. Okay. Next is hypertonic solution. Now hypertonic solution has less water as compared to the cell. Less water means less water but more solute. Or we can say, in other words, we can say that the water moves out of the cell and the cell shrinks, and this process is exosmosis. Hypotonic solution, it has more water as compared to the cell, and there we can say that it is endosmosis. So next is cytoplasm. What is a cytoplasm? Cytoplasm is the site of metabolic activities. It is a jelly-like semi-fluid substance that is present in between the cell membrane and the nucleus, and it contains all the cell organelles and is the site of metabolic activities of the cell, which I mentioned earlier. Now there are various components of cytoplasm. The first one is water, second is protein, third is the enzymes, fourth one is salt, and the fifth one is the cell organelle. So these are the 5 components of cytoplasm: water, protein, enzymes, salts, and cell organelles. Okay, and there are various functions of cytoplasm. The first function of cytoplasm is it is a site of metabolic activities. Okay, now second one is transport of materials. That is, it helps in the movement of substances within the cell. Now, the third one is it supports the cell organelles, like it holds organelles in position and allows them to function properly. Now, the fourth function of cytoplasm is it gives shapes to the cell, that is, it maintains the internal structure of the cell. Okay, now we will talk about the cell organelles. The first one is endoplasmic reticulum. Now, what is a endoplasmic reticulum? It is a network of membranes that helps in the transport of materials. And endoplasmic reticulum are divided into two types: rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes and they help in protein synthesis. In the diagram you can see this, right? Rough endoplasmic reticulum, as you can see in the diagram, this is endoplasmic reticulum. In rough endoplasmic reticulum, it has ribosomes which helps in the protein synthesis. And smooth endoplasmic reticulum, this one is smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which helps in the lipid synthesis and detoxification. Next is ribosomes. So what is ribosome? Ribosome is basically found in all the living cells. They are small non-membrane bound cell organelles that helps in the protein synthesis. So the main function of ribosome is to help in protein synthesis. And they are also known as protein factories of the cell. Why they are known as protein factories? Because they help in protein synthesis. That is why they are known as protein factories of the cell. And these are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, as we have seen in the previous one, right? And the ribosomes are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And they are also made up of RNA and proteins. RNA means ribonucleic acid. Okay. Next one is mitochondria. Mitochondria is also an important cell organelles that are double membrane bound organelles that produces energy in the form of ATP. What is ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Okay, the full form of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. They are also known as the powerhouse of the cell. Just like a power plant supplies electricity to a city, a mitochondria supplies energy to the cell. That's why they are known as powerhouse of the cell. And when we talk about the structure of mitochondria, a mitochondria has an outer membrane, inner membrane, and a matrix. Outer membrane is basically smooth and permeable, while inner membrane is folded into various structures called cristae. Okay, now what is matrix? This one is matrix. So matrix is fluid filled inner space. It has a fluid which is filled and that contains enzymes, mitochondrial DNA and ribosomes. Okay, so these are inside the matrix. Ribosomes are present. The DNA, mitochondrial DNA. What is the full form of DNA? DNA means deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, where it is located? It is located in the cytoplasm. It is present in eukaryotes and absent in prokaryotes. Okay. Now, next one is Golgi apparatus. So, Golgi apparatus, it is a membrane-bound cell organelle that helps in modifying, packing, transporting proteins, and they are lipids that is made in the cell. They are also known as the post office of the cell. Why they are known as post office of the cell? Just like a post office sorts, then packs and delivers the parcel, like that, the Golgi apparatus sorts, packs and transports the cell materials. Clear? And in Golgi apparatus, as you can see in the diagram, that it has two phases, cis phase and trans phase. What are these? Cis phase, basically they receives vesicles from the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, trans phase, they sorts and ships proteins to its destination. Okay, so these are the two phases that is present in Golgi apparatus, cis phase and trans phase. Now, where it is located? It is located in the cytoplasm. It is present in eukaryotes while absent in prokaryotes. The next cell organelle is lysosomes. Now, what are lysosomes? Lysosomes are membrane-bound organelles that contain the digestive enzymes. They help in breaking down waste materials, foreign particles and worn-out organelles. That's why they are known as suicide bags of the cell. Now, where they are located? They are located in the cytoplasm. They are located in the animal cell, and they are rarely seen in the plant cells. Next is plastid. Now, what is a plastid? Plastids are basically double membrane bound organelles that are found in the only in plant cell, not in the animal cells. As they are found only in the plant cell, that's why they are responsible for photosynthesis, storage of food, and they provides color to the plants. And they are present in cytoplasm of the plant cells. Clear? There are three types of plastids: chloroplast, chromoplast and leucoplast. Let's see what are they. So first one is chloroplast. As the name suggests, chloroplast, the main function of chloroplast is photosynthesis. And when we talk about the structure of chloroplast, they are double membrane and it produces grana and stroma. Examples: they are present in the leaves of green plants. Next is chromoplast. What is a chromoplast? Chromo means color. Okay, so they give color to the fruits and flowers. Main function is they attract insects for the pollination process, like in flowers, then tomato. All these are examples of chromoplast. Now, next is leucoplast. Leucoplast, the main function of leucoplast is storage of food. And there are three types of leucoplast: amyloplast, eleoplast and aleuroplast. What are the main difference between these three is amyloplast, they store starch, eleoplast, they store oil, and the aleuroplast, they store protein. Clear? Amylo, they store starch, eleoplast, they store oil, and aleuroplast, they store protein. They are basically seen in the roots and seeds. Now we will talk about nucleus. What is a cell nucleus? Cell nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle that controls all the activities of the cell. As I have mentioned earlier, it is the brain of the cell or the control center of the cell, and it contains a main genetic material that is known as DNA. DNA means what? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, so it is control center of the cell and it is present in the cytoplasm. Okay, so when we talk about the structure of a cytoplasm, it contains a nuclear envelope or a nuclear membrane. Now, what is that? It is double layered membrane and it has a nuclear pores. Then it contains nucleoplasm, which is jelly-like fluid substance that is present inside the nucleus. Clear? Then it has a chromatin or a chromosome. This is chromatin. Okay, chromatin or chromosome, which is a thread-like structure which carry genes that is responsible for heredity. Next is nucleolus. This one is nucleolus. Okay, nucleolus is a dense body that is present inside the nucleus and helps in the formation of ribosomes.